Yes. What is up? What is up, Mixed Combat Radio family? Another weekly edition of the show live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Links below in the description, all that fun stuff, Patreon. You know what it is. It was a big fight week this week, Gary. I mean, we had Manny Pacquiao return. And I know it wasn't Earl Spence. I know, like most people, I was not as hyped for this weekend as I was 2 or 3 weeks ago. But it turned out to be a great fight. Great upset. And, I mean, I know Gary's happy. Finally, one of his guys gets a W, man. He was in a big losing streak. Back with a major W in a major fight. So it should be a fun show. And plus, obviously, you know, Crawford-Porter purse bid has been announced and the date. Canelo-Plant has been rescheduled with a new date. So some other fight news to get into. So without further ado, let me get to my co-host, the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you?
Well, the week before really started off my winning streak with Franco and Virgil Ortiz. That got me off.
That's true. It's been crazy for me for like days and stuff. Did we not do a show last week?
We haven't done a show.
My God. Gary, so we can talk about that as well, obviously. A lot to get into on today's show.
But I've been an Ugas fanboy, and I wasn't into it initially, but as we got close to the fight, I was like, you know what? I'm not picking Ugas, but I think Ugas got a real shot. Like, I think he's a live dog. He's got a chance in this fight. And we'll get into it, but I don't think the fight was particularly close. Dan Rayfield had Pacquiao winning on his scorecard, which is unique, but he is known to be the worst scorer alive. Larry shout out to Damian Lillard for calling out Fox's nonsense that saying Pacquiao was winning.
It was so funny when that happened because you can see like Brian Kenny like shut down and go like, what do you mean we're not saying it right? Like, Manny
said you guys said he was winning, not me.
Dude, that was hilarious. It was definitely one of those fights where like as the day wore on, like I was getting excited for it, you know, like everyone was talking about it. Like everyone else talking, maybe because, you know, my day job has really increased in the boxing world. Yeah. So I talked to a lot more people in the industry, but everyone was talking about it. I work with a Filipino promoter. So obviously it's a Manny Pacquiao fight. So it was heavily on the minds of everyone. And it didn't disappoint. I thought it was an excellent fight for what it was. I mean, I think, Gary, you're partially right that it's not. I thought it was a close fight, but it's not a fight that should be hard to score. Like there's no way you give less than 7 rounds to Ugas. Like he clearly won rounds 2 through 5, I think, and the round 7, 8, maybe 9 as well.
7, 8, 9, 12. Yeah.
And like you give him those 7 rounds, and it was clear, in my opinion, because he was out-timing Manny Pacquiao, landing the better shots. You can tell that Pacquiao was frustrated. It was visible on his face. I don't understand how people score it for Manny Pacquiao. I've heard that come out. I've seen people like score it wide for Ugas. I really don't see that. So maybe you might have it a wide score. I saw someone score it like 10-2.
That's how I had it.
And I want to know the rounds you gave because like I thought Pacquiao did do a lot of good work, and Ugas fell into the issue that he usually has, and that almost cost him the fight, in my opinion. Was that he wasn't throwing enough in certain rounds. He took major rounds off. He would throw single shots, not combinations. And you have Manny Pacquiao as one of the best combination boxers in the last 20 years. I knew that was going to play into the judges, but I was pretty shocked that it went the right way. I thought we were going to get a little bit of a controversial decision. NGNP in the chat is saying, NJNP, saying Ugas' defense was great. It was. I mean, Ugas' defense was on point. I mean, his Cuban boxing definitely showed up here, and I'm obviously going to talk about another Cuban boxer, Guillermo Rigondeaux, later on. 1 for 2 on 2 big weekends.
No, 2 for 2. 2 for 2. Oh. We'll get into that. That's atrocious.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
I don't know who they are, but they've had an agenda against Rigo for years now. That was ridiculous.
I cannot wait to get into that. I don't think I saw what your opinion was on the fight, so I'm happy we have a shared mind on that. But we're getting to that in a second. I mean, thoughts on Pacquiao not really adapting in the ring? Thoughts on Ugas outboxing him? Thoughts on the future of Manny Pacquiao, Gary. I mean, what do you think here?
Ugas, I thought, fought a perfect fight. Like, if you go back, like I think it's 1983 or 1984, Villanova versus Georgetown, the perfect upset when Villanova shoots like 90% in the second half and beats Georgetown by a bucket.
Dude, Ryan in the chat with the best comment, hands down. No one's gonna beat this tonight. I had all
He'll be back.
Fight this.
Tahar will be back. This one.
Good. Sorry, back to your point, Gary.
I thought Ugas fought a perfect fight. Like he was like the teacher's manual. I don't even know if Matt's old enough to remember. Like when I was a kid, like the teacher had a book with all the answers in it. That was Ugas. Like it didn't matter what Pacquiao did. Like his counter game was on. He was countering Pacquiao like Marquez does. He was physically stronger than him like Horn does. He was hitting him from the outside, hitting him to the body. I mean, and then Pacquiao would unleash a three-piece. You can see Pacquiao's not the same. They weren't 5 and 6 punch combinations like we've seen in the past with Pacquiao. He was still throwing combinations, but it's not like, the hurricane of daggers coming at you. And Ugas just hit.
Plus, he couldn't reach Ugas. Like, there's tons of combinations that just fell short because he was completely out of range. I mean, Ugas used his jab and his reach and his size incredibly well in this fight.
He did. And Ugas, a lot of times in the past, has switched in between the conventional and southpaw stance, and I thought we'd see him fight out of southpaw stance, and we didn't at all. And that worked out being good, right? Like I thought it was going to be one of those things where Ugas tried to pull out all of the tricks, but he didn't. He just stayed mostly in the mid range and the long range, mostly in the long range, outboxed him, and then counted him on the inside. I mean, it was really, really good. It was like if you took what Jeff Horn did and Marquez and kind of mixed it together, that's what Ugas did. And I thought it was, besides the knockout, I thought it was the clearest victory over Pacquiao since this run. Right? You take away the Marquez knockout. Obviously, that was the clearest one. Besides that, I thought I gave Pacquiao rounds 1 and 5.
It's hard because, obviously, the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight would be the only one that comes into that equation because the Bradley loss, it was controversial heavily.
The third Marquez fight, the third one, I thought Marquez.
Is that in this run? Because, where's the run?
I would start the run with Hatton, De La Hoya, Margarito, Cotto. Because Cotto, then Margarito, right? All of those names. So from 2008?
No. I mean, because he fought Barrera and Marquez and Eric Morales.
That was all before. That was all.
That's the first run, right?
That's the first one. I'm saying from when he goes up from 140 and above.
Well, he skipped 140.
He fought. Well, he went and then he went back down and knocked Cotton out, and then went back to
from De La Hoya up. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would end that run at the Marquez KO, and then he had
another run.
He had a third run after that.
He lost the Mayweather fight. Although I still think my card says Ugas won that fight much wider than Mayweather won that fight. I had Mayweather winning, of course, but I thought Pacquiao did good work in rounds. I just thought Ugas landed better, cleaner shots. I think Pacquiao, when Pacquiao throws 4s and 5s, and even when you block them, they're still having an effect and they're partly landing. But Ugas was landing clean. The same way I thought Marquez would do in the third fight. Like he'd block you, he'd make you miss, and then he'd hit you with a right hand. It's like, well, that right hand counts more than the missed shots that Pacquiao threw in my book. The volume is great, and then I haven't seen the punch up, but I'm sure Pacquiao threw a lot more punches, right? But he didn't land more punches. He certainly didn't land the cleaner punches. I mean, Pacquiao had some moments. I'm not saying he fought badly. I'm saying it was competitive. I just thought the rounds were clear that Ugas won. Now, there were other rounds. I had it 10-2. I think anywhere from 11-1 to 7-5 is in the realm of a decent scorecard, right? That means there were 4 swing rounds. It was 1, 3, 5, 9 and 11. I thought there were a bunch of swing rounds. I can look at my card again. But there were a bunch of swing rounds. But even if you gave all those swing rounds, then you have it 7-5. If you give more Ugas 11-1, anything in the middle, I think is reasonable. I thought Ugas clearly won the fight. I go into the scorecards. what we've seen lately. I mean, there's nothing academic about scorecards anymore, but I didn't. And most of the scorecards I'm seeing are 8-4, so the judges got it right. 2 of the 3 judges said 8-4. That's the most common scorecard I'm seeing is 116, 112. So we'll say that's the best score, which I'm fine with.
Speaking of Ugas being a top dog at 147, where does he go next? I mean, is it the Spence fight? Is that the natural next fight for him when Spence heals up? Should he take a tune-up before that? What do you think?
Spence is in a tough spot because I don't know that Spence can keep making a 154. Yeah, Ugas would be the next fight, but does Spence make 47 again to fight Ugas, or is it only a Crawford thing or a Pacquiao thing? You know what I'm saying? I'm not fighting 47 to fight Ugas. Pacquiao, who's now not relevant anymore, shouldn't say that, who's out of the picture now, or Crawford. I'm not making a 147 to fight Ugas. I don't know.
It's very likely we get in first quarter of next year, and it's Ugas versus Sean Porter for the undisputed championship, right? Or not undisputed, because maybe Spence vacates and moves up, right? That's what my theory is going, right? Like Ugas waits, has a tune-up, whatever, in the fourth quarter this year, and we have Crawford-Porter probably at the end of this year. Porter wins, and we have Ugas versus Porter for all the marbles. Spence is out of the division. Crawford lost. Pacquiao lost. That would be so fucking depressing.
Virgil, the WBO would mandate Virgil Ortiz at that point because they want to be involved in
for
that.
making belt.
Yeah. Well, no, for the WBO, for Porter's belt.
Oh, that's right. Dude, it's the WBO. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
Who knows? It's not like Ortiz is top rank.
No, you're right. You're right. He's not top rank. Yeah. It was you'd have the belt by now. They would have took it. If it wasn't a top ranked guy, they would have took it from him and gave it to him.
I don't know where Ugas goes next. Probably a tune-up to be most likely, because I think Spencer's gonna need some time to heal.
What about a rematch?
I don't think Pacquiao does a rematch. Does he?
I don't think so either. But do you think Pacquiao wants to go out like this?
I don't think he wants to go out like this, but he doesn't want a rematch. He never rematched Jeff Horn.
Who did he fight? Yeah, he didn't. Who did he fight right after Horn? That was.
I have it up right here. Hold on. Matisse.
Oh, he took a layoff and then fought Matisse, right? You would think he would have rematched Horn. That's true. And then, yeah. I mean,
maybe he fights Robert Guerrero, who got a win on the card.
Pacquiao? Or I would. I like Guerrero. I've always been a fan of Guerrero. Like I've always thought Guerrero was a little bit underrated. Like he had more skills, than people thought. Like he was underappreciated. Guerrero at 26 and 35 was really good.
Yeah, he was.
At 47, I mean, the weight class at that time was really good, and he didn't have the same power at 47. Obviously, they did 26, and he was still okay. Like, I mean, he fought a prime Mayweather, and he lost almost all the rounds, but he fought him well, right? Like, of that run, he did pretty good, and he lost all the rounds, right? Like, I always thought Guerrero blew out Berto, and then what was the name of the Turkish guy he fought that was a prospect at that time that was supposed to be good?
Who?
That Guerrero fought right before Berto.
Oh. Off the top of my head, Garrett, I do not know. I can look it up real fast.
Yeah, but he had made a real good run. And again, he's not going to beat Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, but he's just a notch underneath those guys. When he was
Saliski,
yeah,
Saliski, Adine.
Wait.
No,
he was supposed to be good. He just never ended up being good. So in retrospect, it doesn't look like much, but he was supposed to lose. Guerrero was supposed to lose that fight.
Here, I'll show you.
I'm pulling it up.
This guy right here on the screen. That guy.
Yeah. Adine. Yeah.
Adine. Yes.
So it's Adine. I mean, he was supposed to. He didn't pan out being good, right? But it was like Ray Robinson was supposed to be good at one point, right? It just didn't pan out. Mike Dallas Jr. was supposed to be good at one point. Didn't pan out.
I think another decent fight for Manny Pacquiao would be like an Amir Khan, a Kell Brook.
That's
something with some prestige, because that's what Manny Pacquiao, like Matisse had prestige, even though he was a shot guy at that point. it was still Lucas Matisse. He had all that name value. He's not going to go fight like an Omar Figueroa, for example, or
I
someone
think
that doesn't have that similar name value.
Khan makes sense. I think there's like still some attraction in that fight because it still never happened and was always supposed to. And like, I still feel like when they were both with Freddie Roach, Amir Khan always felt like the Robin to Batman, right? Like he felt like the sideshow thing. And they sparred a million times. I bet you Khan thinks he did well. And he's like, I can beat this guy. So that's fight still intriguing me. I think that, and I think Guerrero, if they stay on the PBC side, he should win that. I mean, Guerrero won. And people are saying these aren't shot fighters. No, that's what 2 shot fighters look like when they're shot, but they still have a lot of heart. Like, they were shot. I like Guerrero, but that guy was shot.
Oh, it was an old man fight for sure. Like, that could have been on a Triller card with like Mike Tyson versus.
It wasn't that bad, right? It doesn't look like your 2 drunk uncles fighting at a family reunion, but
it was close. Close.
Those fighters were shot.
Frank in the chat saying Ugas talking Cuban politics at the fight. Obviously, Frank's a fan of the My Political Show as well, listener of it. I will say this, from my point of view, both guys are awful when it comes to politics and like ethical issues. Manny Pacquiao has a laundry list of issues, including being anti-communist. So fuck Manny Pacquiao too. But digressing from that,
I don't know about Manny Pacquiao's politics is that he wants to give drug dealers a death penalty. That's not a joke. I'm not joking. He wants the death penalty for drug dealers. I'm not kidding. You can look it up. That's for a fact.
If you sell some weed, guys, in the Philippines, guess what? Firing squad. Sorry, man. Sorry. That's how it is over there. Anyways, I can go on about Manny Pacquiao politics because I've actually looked into it. But digressing, I won't bore the listeners with that bullshit. Also on the card, quickly, we did mention Victor Ortiz, Robert Guerrero. Robert Guerrero obviously picked up the UD. He looked good. I mean, against another shot fighter. Like Gary said, the skills that he had at 126 and 135, we can see that he was a skilled fighter, obviously. I mean, his inside work is really underrated, especially for his era. And it was a decent old man fight. I would just say that. A fight I want to get to and talk about. There's 2 fights I want to get to and talk about.
The thing is, like, Ortiz is 34. He's younger than Ugas. Ortiz is not that old, right? Yeah, it's totally shot. Yeah.
He had a very extreme out of ring lifestyle.
He did. And that'll age you. That'll do it.
That would do it. Mark Migsayo, right? How do you pronounce the last name? Knocking out Julio Ceja in the 10th round. First off, fantastic fight up until the knockout. Really great stuff. Probably the best fight of the night. And one that Ceja came on super strong and then started waning as the rounds went on. And Mark Migsayo is obviously maybe the next Filipino guy. I've always thought highly of him as a prospect, but this is a good quality win against a veteran top 15 guy. That's a good barometer test because he's fought a lot of guys as well. Obviously he did better than Brandon Figueroa, so we have to point that out. I'm excited for Mark's future at 122. Technically this was 126, but he has a future. He's going to be a world champion one day for sure. Is he going to be a long reigning champion? Probably not, but he's definitely going to pick up a belt. Gary, thoughts on
it was good. He was very hittable. Very hittable. Keep your featherweights away from Ceja. He hasn't beaten one yet, but he's given all of them life and death. They got a draw at Brandon Figueroa. Keep your 122 and 126 pounders away from Ceja. But it was a good performance. I thought he was fading. I thought Ceja was seizing control of that fight, and then the knockout came. It was good. That was a great fight against a really good opponent. Like, again, Ceja hasn't gotten that win yet, but he was beating Rigondeaux when Rigondeaux knocked him out. He got a draw at Brandon Figueroa, and then I didn't see the scorecards, was beating Migsayo when he got, you know what I'm saying? And these are deep in the fight. It's not like he's up in the 4th round and gets knocked. Yeah. He was wearing these guys down and beating them down, and then he got knocked out. Ceja's not great defensively, so he's going to get hit, but keep your featherweights away from him.
dude, he's clearly like one of the like all violence fighters like in that weight range.
Yeah.
Because like every matchup he's been in with any guy of note, it's been highly violent, highly chaotic, and extremely entertaining. I hope he's doing okay. I know he's out of the hospital now because that was a crazy knockout. Hopefully he's doing well. I know wars like that do take a toll on fighters, obviously speaking. So hopefully he's doing well right now. Another undercard fight I want to get to before we move on is Carlos Castro picking up a win against Oscar Escandon, who I've always loved as a veteran. Castro, similar to Mark Masego, really struggling in this fight against a veteran. Like, Castro was hurt several times in the fight. I don't think he really could get his offense going. And plus, by the time he did, and obviously did get the finish, Escandon had hurt him so much to the body that Castro was really struggling to finish the fight. If he had more sort of gas in the tank without, the body punishment from Escandon, he probably could have got Escandon out of there much faster, probably within like 6 rounds. But he couldn't. He got beat up to the body and slowed down dramatically. Luckily, he had the power and the size advantage. Thoughts on Carlos Castro, who's been a prospect now forever, who finally took a step up against a veteran. What's his future? And Escandon, who is the wily veteran who took another tough L.
It's tough out for Escandon, right? I mean, he's a dog, right? Like, Escandon is on you. That guy's a gnat. Like, he doesn't get off you. Escandon is a good opponent, but that's ultimately what he is. He's an opponent. He fought Figueroa 3 years ago, roughly, like the same way, and then Figueroa also knocked him out in the last round. But he makes life difficult for you. So, I mean, you guys might say, like, oh, he got hands put on by, Escandon. But it's a good performance by Castro against a worthy opponent, right? Like, it's a good opponent. It's a guy that makes life difficult for you, and he did. And Castro got through it, and he got through it with flying colors. But, someone might just look at that and be like, oh, he beat up an old man. Well, that old man is good at making life difficult for young fighters.
Absolutely. And he picked up a good win in his last fight against another undefeated prospect in Jack Tapora. So it's not like Escandon's a shot guy. And he wasn't shot in this fight, in my opinion. He just got caught too many times and he got hurt. I mean, that shit happens. But he beat up Jack Tapora in his last fight dramatically and locked him out in the first round. So Escandon is still a great veteran to have. He's a great top 15 guy at this point in time. He's like the Chisora.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect spot to be in, to be honest. You can still make a lot of money doing that. Moving on from that, because we have a lot of cards to get to because we didn't do last weekend's. Let's get to your boy Josh Franco getting the win, staying champion against Andrew Maloney. And now, obviously, being the mandatory for the winner of Estrada Gonzalez 3. First off, on the performance, Franco, from what I knew, was going to outperform Andrew Maloney. He was the better fighter, better inside fighter, better boxer, better power, better defense. Like, I've never been a believer of the Maloney brothers. Never have been. Always think they've been overrated Australian fighters. Just my personal opinion. Sorry, Liam, into the chat. I know he's going to be upset at that comment. Franco's a legit talent. He's not a guy that's going to beat probably those Hall of Fame people above him, because that's who he's dealing with now, right? Is the Hall of Famers that are above him that created a legacy already. And he's probably going to just be ending up being a good win for one of those Hall of Famers. And that's fine. Everyone has a role to play in life and work and their dreams and all that stuff. His role to play is going to be a gritty top 10 guy for his whole career. That's who he's going to be. But he's dealing with Hall of Famers next. He's not dealing with the Maloney brothers. He's not dealing with that shit. He's dealing with, or even like Oscar Negrete, like quality veteran, right? But Roman Gonzalez, Estrada, these are guys that have cemented their status, not only into the future Hall of Fame, but right now in the pound for pound. Gary, thoughts on Franco's dominant performance? Like, I gave him probably like 9 rounds in this fight. Like, I thought he washed Malone. Thoughts on it?
Had it 10-2. The judges all had it 8-4. 10-2, 8-4, somewhere in that range, just like in the realm of correct scores. I talked to Josh after the fight, and me, him, and Robert Garcia all agreed that it was his best performance. Like, it was the best performance of his career. It was complete. Maloney couldn't. And again, Maloney, I think, is a good fighter. Maybe around. That's a tough division, but he's a top 10-ish guy. He's a good fighter. There's nothing special about him. But it was one of those things where Maloney wanted to try to get all the way in or stay all the way out, and he had no success doing anything. It's not that he didn't land any shots. He did land shots. But Maloney just got the worst for wear in every exchange. And then when he would get inside, Franco would outwork him on the inside. And Franco's the bigger hitter. So it was like nothing was working for Maloney that day. And now I know why Maloney wanted to get the title back through technicality and trying to have the Nevada State Athletic Commission change the decision and give him the belt from the previous fight, because he knows he can't beat him, right? I mean, Franco is better at every aspect of the sport than Maloney. Yeah, and I don't think Maloney's a bad fighter. It's just Franco's better, right? I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Jets fan, and we're talking about the Jets quarterback, Zach Wilson. And, is he better than Justin Fields, who got drafted by the Bears 5 picks later? No. Fields is better at every single thing on a football field than Zach Wilson is, so you made a huge mistake, right? And I'm not saying the kid Wilson sucks. I'm just saying Fields is better at everything. So, Maloney's the same. I mean, Franco's the same way. I'm not saying Maloney's terrible. I'm saying Franco's better at everything than Maloney is. So that's why Franco beats him. Now, what's next for Franco is a major step up, right? The WBA said that he's going to fight the winner of the trilogy between Estrada and Chocolatito. You go from a good fighter, and I think Maloney's a good fighter, to an all-time great fighter, possibly the best little man ever, and if Chocolatito wins. And Franco wants Chocolatito to win. He wants to fight Chocolatito, right? Absolutely. That's the money fight. That's the legacy fight. You think it could be a changing of the guard, your time is over and now it's my time. That being said, his best bet is that Chocolatito ages out quickly, like Pacquiao did. Because
doesn't win the fight too, because I think Estrada is probably an easier matchup for Franco than Roman Gonzalez, right? I mean, what's your take on the possible matchups we have here? Estrada versus Franco or Gonzalez versus Franco. Which one is the easier route? Again,
I'm thinking Chocolatito wins. So in my head, but Estrada certainly could win. He won the last fight, kind of. He didn't win that fight, but it was a good fight. It was a great fight. It's still fight of the year in my book, right? We're almost through 3/4 of the way through the year now. It's still fight of the year to me. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, both guys. Franco's problem, and before the WBA announced, I was like, well, those guys are going to fight. Who could Franco fight next? And my head went right to Rasul Rungvisai, right? He fights on his own. It's a makeable fight. He doesn't have the opponent either. It'd be for Franco's belt. I think that's a good fight. Could Franco win that fight? Well, Rungvisai's not great defensively. He gets hit a lot. Franco gets hit a lot. I don't know. That's a really good fight. I could see either guy winning that fight. But then when they announce this, boy, 115 doesn't have good fighters in it. It has 5 Hall of Fame because Nietes is back. It's got 5 Hall of Famers at the top of the division. So Rungvisai is a Hall of Famer. He's got 2 wins over Chocolatito and a win over Estrada. That's a Hall of Famer.
Okay, I put it up on the board here. Okay, Estrada's a Hall of Famer. Gonzalez is a Hall of Famer. Circuit or Rungvisai is a Hall of Famer. Nietes is a Hall of Famer. So that's 4 right there.
And Ioka's a Hall of Famer.
I would argue Ioka and Tanaka would be Hall of Famers as well.
Tanaka probably will be. Ioka, if you're tied now, Ioka is a Hall of Famer.
I mean, we're talking about 6 guys.
Hall of Famers in the division.
That are future Hall of Famers and all had claims to pound for pound within the last couple of years. I mean, not Nietes, but the other 5 have all had claims to the pound for pound. Tanaka not too long ago, he just lost to another guy in the pound for pound, arguably in Ioka. Josh Franco's a really good fighter, but he's moving up against greats, people that do things that he does, but better. Who would be a better inside fighter, Franco or Sirkis or Rungvisai, Roman Gonzalez, Estrada? I would say those 3 are better inside fighters than Franco. Who's a better boxer than him? I would say Franco is Estrada is absolutely without doubt a better boxer than Franco.
I mean, those are great names. You know what I'm saying? It's just unfortunate. If he can beat one of them, that propels him into stardom, at least amongst little men, right? You look at those names. What do you not see a lot of? Americans. There's not a lot of Americans in those smaller weight classes. If Franco can beat one of those guys, he could be a star in those weight classes. for whatever that means, right? Like he's not going to be as popular as Mayweather or Canelo, but for those weight classes, he can be a draw. But he's got to beat one of those guys. The name that I thought was, if I had to pick one, who would he be in that list? Rungvisai, because he's defensively the most flawed.
Yeah, it would be a tough fight still.
Franco gets hit too much, though. Like getting hit by Maloney and getting hit by Rungvisai, not the same thing. Rungvisai is a physical force; he's a beast. Look what he did to Chocolatito in the second fight. Look what he did to him. Like,
it's a hard route for Franco. You know, like it really is. And the sad part is, like, if he moves up to 118, good luck there. You have Inoue, Casamora, Rigo, Donaire, Hall of Famers all in their own right. Like, no matter where he goes right now, it's just a tough route. Like I said, sometimes your role to play isn't that change in the guard fighter. Maybe it's to be a top 10 guy.
Fought Negrete the last 2 fights at 118 because Negrete couldn't make 115. So I talked to him, and he says 150. He came in a full pound under almost 114.2. He said 115 is easy for him to make. So I don't think he's going to leave the division, right?
No,
I think he's just going to be there for a while, and you know he's younger than those guys. He's going to have more staying power in the division. I think he can make 115. You know, moving forward,
he's probably going to pick up a belt when some of these guys retire because of the age. You're probably right about that. It's similar to like 118, right? Like those are all old fighters except for Inoue. Like, a lot of these guys are going to retire in the next 2 to 4 years. Franco's still in his 20s, right? Like, he still has a lot of time to collect a belt.
He's 25. He's got years.
The issue is, though, obviously, like, let's say, like, the change in the guard happens just due to father time and they just leave the division. He doesn't ever pick up a win against them. That's going to always, like, hinder his star power.
I'm saying to be a star, he's got to beat one of those names, right?
Similar to the welterweight division, right? Obviously not a one-to-one analog, but none of those guys have ever beat that former era's greatest talent.
Right, and like Boots and Ortiz would have to beat Spence or Crawford. If they don't, or Porter, and those guys just leave the division or retire, like there's not a proper changing of the guards. Not to say they're not great fighters, but
don't worry about it. I'm just gonna mute you, Gary. Frank in the chat also saying, don't forget Quadras. Yes. I don't know if he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, though. I don't know. I don't know if Quadras is going to be in the Hall of Fame. Gary, I muted you, so mute yourself. Sorry about that.
No, I thought I muted it. Okay.
Frank in the chat saying, don't forget about Quadras, Carlos Quadras in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he's there.
I mean, the Hall of Fame, they put Gatti in if you want to put him in for making really, really fun fights. But his credentials don't put him in.
He does have a win against Rungvisai. I mean, that might be a trump
card. It was stopped early due to a headbutt. Yeah, but he won. He did. He won. But one win's not enough to put you in the Hall of Fame. The rest of his wins are losses. They're just wins for us because we're fans, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't win. And he almost beat Estrada. He lost by 1 point each card. A lot of people thought he won.
He was so close. So close.
All of his best wins are just television wins. They're actually losses on his record.
Yeah, like his best wins are Circus or Rungvisai and like Louis Conception, and like that's about it. So probably not. If he had to beat Estrada in one of those fights that he arguably could have beat him in, maybe he makes the case. Alvaro Fernandez is asking Gary, can you please turn down your mic a little bit?
Yeah. Is that better?
Yes.
All right.
Turn the gain down a little bit too, if you can. I know you got a new thing. I don't know if you even have a gain.
The gain is down.
Perfect.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. I think it's better.
Anything for the fans. Anything.
Absolutely. To quickly go through this card because there was some good fights on it. Arnold Barboza defeating Antonio Moran in probably one of the most disappointing fights of the last 2 weeks. Arnold Barboza is a guy that's big, has a lot of pop for the division, right? Antonio Moran got knocked out cold by Devin Haney. A guy that none of us think has any power. And Barboza really couldn't hurt him.
Which was intriguing. Yeah. Because, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't big on Barboza. I picked him to beat Salcedo because I thought Salcedo was more fun than he was good. And he beat Salcedo and he beat him up. I was like, okay, maybe he's good. Now I'm back thinking I'm not that impressed with Barbosa.
Did you think like me that he was a little bit out of shape in this fight? It looked like he looked a little bit thick around the midsection.
Yeah, yeah.
Like maybe he should be cutting some more weight there, Barbosa. But I just wasn't impressed. And overall, like you, Gary, I would agree. I have not been impressed with Barbosa on his come up until the Salcedo fight, where he beat up Salcedo, who I thought not highly of, but he was a good fighter. And he retired Salcedo. So, I mean, that was impressive in its own right. Let's get to your other boy, Joshua Greer Jr., losing to Jason Maloney. Really disappointing. He came out strong. Like Joshua Greer was winning the first couple rounds and then just stopped throwing, stopped really having any cardio. I think we can safely say now that Joshua Greer Jr. is probably never going to get a title fight, right?
I mean, he's still young, but I mean, he just doesn't let his hands go. He let his hands go in the first 2 rounds and the last 2 rounds, and he won those rounds, or at least the last round. And he didn't let his hands go at all in the middle, and he lost all those rounds. Like, what does this tell you? Right? It was like when Franco fought Negrete 3 times. Twice he started late and lost the first couple of rounds and ended up with a draw. The middle fight he didn't. He started fighting early and won. Like, don't start slow. You know, Greer came up as a volume puncher, believe it or not. You go back and watch his fights on like Roy Jones cards and the Iron Boy cards that were on, you streamed online. He threw punches in combination. He threw 80, 90 punches around. It's hard to believe that that's the same guy. I don't know what it is, right? I still see a ton of talent and athleticism there. Like, he should be good, but it's just, it never got put together. Like, I don't know. He never put it together. It's just, I thought he was going to be king of the 118-pound division. Maybe a move to 122 helps him. He looked really drained at the weigh-in, really drained. But he's not a big guy. Like, he's not tall. Like, I don't know. No.
Gary, remember when you were like, oh, he's going to be a guy to face like a Niue in the future, man? Like, that was going to be a big fight.
Yeah.
He thought it was going to be a big U.S. fight because, like, Joshua Greer is going to be a U.S. fighter. You know, he's a great talker, great self-promoter. Gary.
Didn't pan out. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes, yeah.
It happens.
Aydin Salak was the Turkish guy. That was his name, Aydin Salak, right? He was supposed to be really good. He didn't pan out, right? Like, Josh Greer, I thought was going to be really good. He didn't pan out. Jet fans think Zach Wilson's going to be really good. He's not going to pan out, right? Like, it's what it is.
Hector Tanahara
will be fine. Hector Tanahara will be fine. He can. I know this is going to sound dumb. I'm not going to say he can win. He can.
No, you can't say it now.
He can beat Zapata. He can beat him. He can win that fight. He can outbox him. I know it looks ridiculous to say that now after he got beat up the way that he did. He can beat that guy.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'll say this: Mario Barrios has a way better chance of rebounding from his loss than Tanahara does. But that's because Barrios has way more natural talent than Tanahara, right?
I mean,
like Barrios has some pop. Barrios is a much better athlete than Tanahara. Like, I would say he has a better chance to rebound.
It's going to be tough because you're going to have to rebound at 47. So what do you mean rebound like win a world title? Because at 47, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, but think about it. Like, all these guys are leaving the next 2 years.
But you got to – you think he's beating Boots or Virgil or
there's 4 belts.
Jesus Ramos? He ain't beating those guys. And I love –
There's 4 belts. He could beat Ramos. He could beat Ramos.
He better fight him next. Ramos is good. And Ramos is fighting his next fight at 54, isn't he? So maybe Ramos is already outgrowing the division. I don't know if that's a full-time thing, but Ramos is an animal.
I hope not, man. I like him at the division.
If he can't make the weight, he can't. I mean, he can't make the weight. He can't make the weight.
You're right. Some of these guys are lazy. Let's be honest. Just speaking from experience. Also on the card, Albert Bell versus Julio Cortez pick up a win. Carlos Balderas pick up a TKO win against Fidel Cervantes. Trey Lippe Morrison pick up a win as well. And the great Nico Ali Walsh, the grandson of Muhammad Ali, picking up a win against a software designer from Silicon Valley. It looked like it was.
The guy was 4-1. You got to wonder who he beat. Like, who did that guy beat? Wow, he was bad.
He beat. Oh, you want to know?
No, I'm not gonna know his name.
No. But the records. His first win was against a guy that was 3-14-1.
Okay.
His second win was against a guy that was 6-19-0. His next win was against a guy that was making his debut.
That's what I was thinking. There were going to be a lot of debuts in there.
His next one was against a guy with just one loss.
So, yeah.
Oh, and then he had a loss heading into this fight, by the way.
Yeah.
Because his fight before this was a loss as well. He lost via TKO in the 4th round to a guy that was 1-6-1.
So you can see what we're dealing with here. Look, he seems Nico Ali Walsh seems like a good kid. Seems like a nice kid. I mean, I'm gonna put him in, and I'm not saying he's a terrible fighter. I'm gonna put him in the Ricky Hatton bucket. Be like, come see me in 5 years, because I'm not even gonna make
Campbell Hatton.
Campbell Hatton, Ricky Hatton Jr. Campbell Hatton, and Nico Ali Walsh. They go in a bucket. I'll see you in 5 years because you're not even close to ready, right? Like, I'm not saying you're never going to be good. I'm not saying that. I'm saying right now you're not even close. Like, if you didn't have that name, you'd be fighting in bars in front of 200 people for $600. And I'm not degrading you in any way, shape, or form, right? You don't have a long boxing pedigree, so you get that pedigree.
Gary. It would be like more like $400. You would get $100 per round. Okay, like that's what you'd be getting. I think I can safely say he's not going to pan out. I mean, think about what like he's being set up to fail. Like he was on a co-main event on an ESPN card. All the coverage, all the promotional work they did for this card was about him.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Like he's going to fail because of that.
Yeah, it was like Michael Jordan's kid played at the University of Illinois, Jeffrey Jordan. He averaged like 9 points a game at Illinois, which is pretty good, right? Like, you know how good you have to be to play basketball at Illinois? Like, I played D1 baseball for 1 year. I was the worst player on the team. I was a really good high school. You know what I'm saying? You get really good to average 9 points a game for a major school like that. And it's like everyone's like, oh, he sucks. Like, no, he's really good. And it's the same kind of thing Walsh is going to walk into. It's like the bar was set so ridiculously high, everyone's going to fail, right? Like, look what you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's unfortunate because they should have done it the right way if he was serious about it, but I doubt they're really that serious about it. Moving on to the other big card of the weekend, probably the card that I was the most excited for. And even after the weekend was over, I was still probably the most excited about this main event of Gamma Rigondeaux and John Rael Casamora. In a fight that obviously I know 99.999% of you hate and will say it was the worst fight of the year. It was similar to Robert Easter Bartholomew. I will understand that criticism. I thoroughly enjoyed this fight, Gary. Is that sick of me?
It was okay. I didn't hate it as much as everyone else did.
Dude, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I thought it because to me it was like because Gamma Rigondeaux is like one of the biggest trolls in boxing, and this was him like personifying his trollness in the ring for 12 rounds, and not giving a fuck about. Not gonna fuck about the judges. Not gonna fuck about John Rael Casamora. Not caring at all. And he was just making Casamora look dumb, silly. Like Casamora, I think it was like round 7, 8, or 9. One of those rounds, because it was in the second half of the fight. And Casamora was a mile away from him every time he was throwing punches. And you can see Casamora like go like, "Come on, man, please! Like, can you stop doing this?" And like Rigo like did like a shimmy and kept fucking going. It was amazing, okay? The only thing I can compare it to, and I know you won't get this reference, Gary, similar to how I don't get most of your sports references. In the UFC, when Anderson Silva fought Nick Diaz, and neither one threw a punch for 5 rounds, and Nick Diaz laid in the ring and then like did a shimmy after it and then like flipped off Anderson Silva and just didn't give a fuck about the fight. That's what this was. And I thoroughly enjoy it. I know it's bullshit. I understand that, but I This was fine art to me, man.
I just thought Rigo won all the rounds.
He
right?
did. He did.
I like.
This is the closest we're gonna get to. This is the closest we're gonna get to like a Willie Pep performance, where like a guy doesn't throw a single punch and he still wins the round.
But he would load up with one left hand and land it, and then he would make he would make Casemiro chase him around and miss. Right, like that's ring generalship, and you're landing the clean punches. You made him the meme. It's the stash. I think it's the 11th round, but Rigo's actually running. It's classic, right? Because he said it's funny because he said that Floyd Mayweather was a runner. The irony is great, but I mean, there's no way Casemiro won rounds. He didn't land any punches, and it wasn't a fight like Sergio Moore versus Shane Mosley where no one landed any punches, so it's like it didn't really matter who he's going for. Rigo landed punches. He might not have landed as much as you want, but he lands two left hands and then makes the other guy literally chase him around for 3 minutes and miss every shot. He wins the round. And that was like every round after the first. I thought Casemiro looked good in the first one, and then he lost the next 11. Like, I didn't see this close at all. And then the judges came in, and there's an agenda against this guy, Rigo. And it's been for quite some time. Jim Lampley, when he knocked out Chucky Flores, Jim Lampley got it overturned. Like,
dude, single-handedly got that shit overturned. And that shit shouldn't have been overturned.
He hit right at the bell. It was simultaneous with the bell. He threw the punch before the bell landed, right? Before the bell sounded. When it landed, but he threw it before the bell sounded. So it's a clean punch.
Jim Lampley crying. This is a travesty. We need a replay.
And the replay would have upheld it. Like, I mean, you go back to
the funny part of everyone posting that clip of Jim Lampley like crying about Manny Pacquiao, like this could be his last performance. And he showed us again. Why? He is Manny Pacquiao. That shit had me dying, dude. Jim Lampley. It's sad that he is still better than 90% of the boxing commentary teams we have right now.
He's so good at calling a fight, right? Like, he's so good at the punch by punch. He's such a little fanboy and cheerleader. It's annoying to listen to. Like, just call the fight, and he's as good as Jack Buck was at calling baseball, or Mark Albert is at calling basketball. Like, he's so incredibly good. If you could just put your silly biases, and everyone's got biases, right? But just call the fight. Be a professional. Don't be a little fanboy.
A little fanboy.
You're a professional. You paid a lot of money to call a fight. Call a fight. It's not like a baseball game. So there's a photo going around from a Texas Ranger game. Texas Rangers is the worst team in baseball. Somebody's wearing a Texas Rangers jersey. Have you seen this? And no. Just the jersey says, "God, we suck." 21. Somebody spent them to have that jersey made.
That's amazing. That is so fucking good. That is a great fan. I mean, obviously, we're going to get probably a Inoue versus Casamora next. And Inoue is going to slap up Casamora. I don't think it's going to be close.
No.
I don't. I'm really bummed we're not going to get Rigondeaux versus Inoue now. I'm really bummed about that. Because, like you said, like there's always been an agenda against Rigondeaux for a variety of reasons. I blame Bob Arum for that, mostly. He's not going to get a lot of shots. Like, I'm surprised he's been getting these, like the amount of shots he's been getting with PBC. I don't think that's going to continue. Maybe after this performance, because I know I enjoyed it. I know you weren't as upset as others, but most people thought it was a horrible fight, and most people blamed Rigo for it, which makes no sense to me. Like, you're the guy that's a defensive fighter making the other guy miss over and over and over again, and you're being blamed for it? No, blame the guy that can't land a fucking shot. He's the world champion. He can't land a single punch in a round. Come on. But digressing. Hopefully Rigo gets another big fight. Like maybe they just do the Donaire rematch. Fuck it. That'd be cool. Gary Antonio Russell and Manny Rodriguez ended in anticlimactic fashion in the first round due to headbutt. I was really upset about that because I wanted Gary Antonio Russell to beat up Emmanuel Rodriguez so Gary can finally stop believing in Emmanuel Rodriguez being quality. Rashid Warren, though, shout out to Rashid Warren, man.
Ooh.
Probably like the best performance of the last 2 weeks because he iced Damian Vasquez, who wasn't a pushover at all. And I mean, iced him like vintage Rashid Warren performance. It's good to have him back. And he's a little 3-fight winning streak now. Big KO on a Showtime card. Hopefully, he gets a big fight next. You know,
It's one of those things where Warren doesn't have the knockout ratio, but everyone who's ever been in the ring with him says he can hit. So it was just a matter of loading up and gunning for knockout, and he was loaded up in that fight. Like, and Vasquez, guys, is a guy who, how many rounds did he go with Figueroa? Like 10, 9, 10?
Yeah, something like that.
So Figueroa, who's bigger, a massive 122 pounder, right, and a puncher, took him that many rounds to get him out. And Russell got him, and Rashid Warren got him out. He hit him every time he hurt him every time he hit him. He dropped him twice in the first round and then finished him in the second. I mean, he looked like a seek and Rashid Warren looked like a seek and destroy fighter. That if he does this, mixed in with all of his skills, his pedigree, this guy is not going to be irrelevant at 118. He's got a future at 118.
Absolutely. Maybe him and Donaire. Donaire's the odd man out. So anyone should be trying to fight Donaire right now. Rashid Warren versus Donaire would be a good fight as well. Juan Carlos Payano picked up a win. Jonas Sultan picked up a win as well. Brandon Lee picked up a win. And that's it for major prospects. Also, shout out to Brandon Lee getting paid like $500 in that card. Did you see that?
I did.
I mean, we talked about it, obviously. I think we talked about it on the group chat.
Yeah.
I can't believe they did it on a major show though. Hopefully, he got that back end, man.
I've seen people pay X amount of dollars for the commission and then paid in cash for whatever reason. I've seen cards where they get fighters from Mexico and then call immigration on them so they don't have to pay them. I've seen all types of things, but never on a major card like this.
Yeah, this was weird.
Yeah.
It was very weird. Anyways, moving on from that, let's get to your other boy, Virgil Ortiz, picking up a win against the Mean Machine, Jonas Kavalauskas, and really a fun back and forth fight. I mean, Ortiz got hurt, I think, in the first or second round, pretty early in the fight. Recovered well. I don't think he did the right things tactically when he was hurt, to be honest, but he did recover well in terms of getting his feet back on him. And his offense, I mean, it's the one issue with this fight is that we learned still nothing new about Ortiz other than that he can probably recover from a hard punch well. But then again, it's the hard punch of Kavalauskas. Is that the same as Crawford, as Spence, as Porter, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao, Jared Enos, like all these other guys that we talk about? Is it equivalent power? I don't know. I've always been questionable about Mean Machine as a talent. But Ortiz's offense is still probably the most destructive offensive game in this division when he puts it together. I think he's one of the best finishers in the division. I think he's one of the hardest punchers in the division. I'm excited for his future. I mean, this is one of those fights that was a fun fight. I didn't learn that much in it, but it still made me excited for Ortiz and what's next for him.
How much different would it be viewed if Mean Machine had knocked down both Crawford and Ortiz, which you could argue that he did, but he got credit for neither of them. Mean Machine can obviously punch. I mean, he can't do much else at a high level, but he can hit. I was impressed. Again, tactically, yeah, Ortiz probably didn't do the right thing. Remember, Robert Garcia wasn't there. He was in Franco's corner. Robert Garcia's dad was there, and Virgil's dad was there. But offensively, he's so good and so complete. I mean, I think he would beat Crawford next. I think he would beat Porter next. I think he might be able to beat Spence already. I don't know about Spence. That's the one kind of question mark I would put. And the other question mark I would put is Boots, because Boots is incredibly good too. But I think that changing of the guard from the Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, that era to this new era is changing abruptly. I do think I think Porter's going to beat Crawford, so I don't think Ortiz is going to get that fight with Crawford. But I do think Ortiz is ready for those names.
Yes and no.
The other thing I wanted to say, we talked about Josh Franco earlier, and I was just thinking Robert Garcia. I was going to say earlier, Josh Franco reminds me of a 115-pound version of Mikey Garcia, which is really good. But what we see when he fights the absolute best guys, Hall of Fame guys, is just not quite enough, right? Unfortunately, Franco's got 5 guys like that in his division.
That's absolutely true. I don't know if Ortiz is absolutely ready for those top guys. I think he's obviously going to fight one of them next. Obviously, probably the WBO mandatory next. But I don't know if he wins those fights. Like again, Mean Machine. Like, what is he really a barometer for Sean Porter? I mean, let's say Sean Porter connects with a hard shot like Mean Machine did, and rocks Ortiz. Sean Porter's going to be on him, man.
Yeah, he's going to do a much better job on him. He couldn't do that. He couldn't fight the way that he fought the rest of that round with Porter because Porter's much more skilled.
And I think Porter's inside work is still going to give Ortiz, even though Ortiz has a great inside game, I think it's going to give Ortiz a lot of issues. Like it gives everyone issues.
Porter gives everyone issues. Like Porter's not an easy fight for anyone at all, right? But I think that he would do enough that he could eke out a decision over Porter. Like I don't think Versus going to go in there and destroy Sean Porter. I don't think any welterweight in the history of boxing goes in and destroys Sean Porter, and I mean that. They can beat him. But, like, Sean Porter's really, really good. No one just destroys Sean Porter. No one has an easy day with Sean Porter.
Ryan in the chat saying Crawford eats Ortiz. I don't know. I think Spence, Crawford, Porter, Ugas. I probably pick against Ortiz at this point in time.
No, you have to. You're picking the young kids over the older guys now. That was the trend you started this year, so you have to stick with it.
But here's the thing. Spence, Crawford, and Porter aren't really old guys.
Yeah.
Like, they're not retiring in the next 2 years. Like these other divisions might be. You know what I mean? Like Loma, I don't know how much longer he's going to be in it. You know, even though he looked great in his last fight. A lot of us were questioning whether or not he was going to really continue and how long he was going to continue. Porter, Crawford, and Spence, like those guys are in it for the next 5 years, without a doubt. They're just gonna probably move up at some point. I mean, Crawford is still a guy that's undefeated. Spence is still a guy that's undefeated. Like these are guys that are still in the prime of their career, especially Spence. I mean, Spence looked fantastic against Danny Garcia, probably his best career fight, in my opinion. Ugas, I mean, look what he did against Pacquiao. I mean, he had a career breakout performance, and he arguably already beat Sean Porter. So these are all really tough matchups of guys that are in the thick of it, that are at their peak. Ortiz is getting to that peak still, in my opinion. I don't think he's peaking. I think Ortiz still has some work he can do on terms of box technique and fundamentals, or applying that tactically when he's hurt. Because he threw all that shit out the window when he got hurt. He started going the animal style in there. I mean, all these guys, they will make him pay for that. Ugas will eat him up with his timing right now, in my opinion. Am I wrong? Like, now, and here's the issue. There's not really a name right there anymore that I could say this is the fight he needs to take next. Because Danny's left the division. That's the name I would want him to face next. And he can't.
Yeah,
Keith Thurman, I don't know if Keith Thurman's available. Like, face that guy next. The guy with the long layoff and coming off an L.
I still think Ugas looked good against Pacquiao. I think Pacquiao's age had something to do with that. I don't think Pacquiao looked nearly as good as he did against Ugas as he did in the Keith Thurman fight. I think he still had his legs in it for him. A lot of his legs in the Thurman fight, where he didn't really seem to have that Pacquiao spring in this fight. I think those 2 years, didn't do Pacquiao well. I'll say that. I would like Ugas. Like the fights I would like to see next is Ortiz versus Ugas, and then Spence versus the winner of Porter Crawford.
Yeah, that'd probably be the best route for him, because Ugas is the most winnable fight for him, because Ugas just doesn't throw enough. Like Ortiz can outvalue him. And honestly, the battle of the jabs for that fight would be highly interesting. I think Ugas wins that battle, and Ortiz will have to adapt to that. But Ortiz has a great jab too.
Real good jab.
It's just that Ugas has a fantastic jab as well. He's a great Cuban boxer. I don't know. It's a tough route, like similar to Franco in a way. Like, though I think I'm way more highly of Ortiz in terms of his ceiling. Don't get me wrong, but they're great fighters. But who they have above them are potentially greater fighters.
I think for Franco it's going to be tough, right? I think these fights are winnable, much more winnable for Ortiz.
They are absolutely than Franco compared to Estrada, Gonzalez, and all those guys. Absolutely, because those are all Hall of Famers. Crawford, Spence, Porter. I mean, they're probably going to slip in the Hall of Fame, but they don't have that automatic.
Porter and Thurman are probably Hall of Famers, but I mean, Estrada and Chocolatito, these guys are all-time great. Like I said, Chocolatito is probably the best little man ever. Like, go from 122 down, Chocolatito is probably the best one ever. Anything below featherweight, Chocolatito is probably the best ever.
Probably.
Like what we're saying, boxing's been around for well over 100 years, 120 years, right? You go back to the modern era. He's the best little man ever. That's saying a lot.
Even though most of those divisions weren't created 120 years ago, but we don't need to talk.
Whatever.
You know what I mean? But digressing, Gary, also on this card, the Alvarado brothers fought. And I have a theory, Gary, about why one of them lost and one of them won. And obviously, the brother theory that if brothers fight on their card, one of them has to lose. One of them has to
Not the Rincon brothers.
Or the Charlos that one time. The other time, not so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the pay-per-view card. They both won.
Yeah.
But Rene Alvarado did not carry out the Sandinista flag from Nicaragua. Felix Alvarado did, and he won the first round. Just my theory. Just want to put that out there into the world. But Felix Alvarado, goddamn, he looked fantastic. Rene, not so much, and I kind of expected that due to Rene's been beat up far more in his career than Felix Alvarado, even though they relatively have the same amount of fights. Rene has more losses, a lot more losses. He's been in a lot more wars than Felix Alvarado. Felix Alvarado has kind of dominated light flyweight in a lot of ways. This was a tune-up for him, and he kind of showed it by knocking him out in the first round. And Gutierrez beating Rene Alvarado, I kind of suspected that. Gutierrez is a solid fighter.
No match for Hector Tanajara, though.
None.
No, I think Gutierrez is good. I like to see where he fits in at 130 right now. There's some good names at 130. And like Rene Alvarado is a flawed fighter. He's got 10 losses?
Yep, 10 losses now.
He's good though, right? Like I'm not saying he's a bum, but like he
has good wins. He beat Dan Shafikov.
He's got good wins. He's a good fighter, but like when you get to the highest level, like he's flawed and he's going to lose a lot of those fights. Felix Alvarado has to fight Bam Rodriguez next, Josh Franco's little brother, and that's got to be that.
Is Bam ready for that?
Bam's been ready. Like Bam's 20 years old. Like, if you go to Texas Boxing interviews, exclusive interviews with Josh and Bam, only I have them. But yeah, Bam's been ready. Bam is incredible. Like Bam is, again, 108 pounders don't get a lot of love here, but he was signed by Titan Promotions when he was like 16. Yeah, that kid is. I'm not saying he's gonna win, but Felix Alvarado is great. Bam is gonna run that division for 5 years.
Let's see it. Dude, the last time Felix Alvarado lost, he had 2 losses back-to-back in 2013 at the very end of the year. So it was Japanese New Year's Eve card. And then he lost in 2014. That 2013 loss in the Japanese New Year's Eve card in 2013. Okay. Do you know who it was against? Off the top of your head, Gary. Don't look. Prominent Japanese boxer today, arguably pound for pound today.
A Japanese boxer, Ioka?
Yes, dude. When Ioka was 13-0 in 2013, dude, that's 8 years ago now. Okay, Felix Alvarado is a beast, man. You
look at some of these cards, right? You see their names on it, like, wow, really? Okay, the guy that Frank Martin beat, the guy with the Polish name from Boston. He was a really touted prospect. He was a Lou DiBella guy when he came, it just didn't work out. But he fought on this Friday Night Fights card on ESPN2. And you look at the name, it's Regis Prograis, Tony Harrison. Right? It's like a list of world champions. Like, wow, look at the talent that and he was on that card. He was one of the talent projects. He just didn't work out. That's why when people were like, "Who is Frank Martin?" Being like, this guy that Frank Martin beaten up is a decent fighter. But like, yeah, you don't appreciate like when Hector Tanahara fought Gutierrez early in their career, or when Stephen Fulton beat Josh Greer early in their careers. Like, you don't really know what you're seeing until they both kind of pan out. Like, Ioka and Alvarado, it's 2 Hall of Famers right there, right?
Dude, if Alvarado cleans up this division a little bit more, because he needs to clean up the division more, yeah, he can have a shot in the Hall of Fame, absolutely.
It is tough, right? Because like a lot of the people who vote for him are like Dan Rayfield, and they don't pay attention to small divisions, right? It's like,
yeah, I mean, that's obviously true.
Especially the really like 105 and 108, like the really, really small divisions where there are like no Americans in it. They don't get a lot of shine, even though there's really good fighters in those divisions.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Let's quickly talk about Canelo, Caleb-Plant, and Sean Porter and Crawford. Obviously, Canelo, Caleb-Plant, new date November 7th, right at the T-Mobile in Vegas. We have Crawford-Porter purse bids for next week. I want to say 2 weeks from now. I think it's like first week of September. I want to say. But what do we think of this, Gary? Is Canelo-Plant signed, still delivered? We're getting it November 7th. We're good.
That's what I understand. And I said it's only dead until it's alive again. You know.
What bullshit? Why do we have to go through this process? Why? Why, Gary? Why do we have to do this? We could have had Canelo on Mexican Independence Day weekend, but no, we had to have it.
I know it's big to Mexicans, and it's a big fight weekend, but does it really matter to you if it's in September or November?
I was going to be in Vegas.
I'm sorry you were going to be there. That's right. Yeah, that matters a lot.
My sister's wedding was that week in Vegas. Yes, I'm very upset about it, Gary. Me personally. But digressing, no, I like the idea of a Mexican champion fighting on Cinco de Mayo, Mexican Independence Day weekend, and it being a big deal. Maybe because, you should probably feel it too, being, the Southwestern United States. Like, when that happens, it does, it does feel different on those.
It does. It's an event, right?
Yeah.
It's bigger for other people, but I'm going to watch it regardless.
Well, yeah, but I feed off of that atmosphere. I do. Like, when other people think it's a big fight, I start getting giddy and feeling like a fight fan again instead of just a curmudgeon media member.
See, this is so Canelo, and this is what I'm trying to explain to people. When Canelo fought Billy Joe Saunders and it broke the U.S. indoor record, right? People didn't go to Canelo versus Saunders. They went to the Canelo fight. You understand what I'm saying? I weren't buying tickets to Canelo versus Sanders. I was going to the Canelo fight. He happens to be fighting Saunders. Colonel Sanders. I feel like does Plant add anything additional? No, right? So it's still just I'm not saying it's just a Canelo fight. Canelo fight is an event, but it's not like Canelo versus Triple G, where Triple G adds something, or Canelo versus Jacobs, where Jacobs adds a little something. It's just another Canelo fight.
I don't think Jacobs added much either, but you're right. But again, if it's just a Canelo fight, attaching it to these key holidays that have always been big fights for boxing, at least in my generation, my lifetime, yeah, I think it adds probably pay-per-view buys to this event. Because think about it, everyone else is already having a party.
So we're back on pay-per-view for this. That's right.
Yeah, this is just trying to push the zone subscriptions, which no one gives a fuck about. We got pay-per-view buys, baby. You got to make
no. Eddie Hearn told me that the zone was the death of pay-per-view. So you're not right about that. It's not on pay-per-view. Eddie Hearn said that pay-per-view's dead.
Mm-hmm.
How does he spin himself out of that one? Because he told you not to buy pay-per-views. He's on the record saying that many times.
The best part is that the second Eddie Hearn has got with Canelo, with the zone run, the little zone run they had together, Canelo's fights were a pay-per-view on the zone.
Yeah.
You can buy them $50 or whatever on your cable provider. So the second they got together, no, we're going back to pay-per-view.
You could. They wanted you to buy the subscription. but they would make it available for you to buy on pay-per-view, which right. I mean, they were pay-per-view commercials for it, like buy it. That's true. But this is only on pay-per-view, right?
True.
And
Well, not only. There's other ways to watch it. I won't disclose those ways, but there are other ways.
Yeah, there are other ways. Don't do that. Yeah.
Like, for example, did I pay for this last Pacquiao event? It was $85. What do you think?
Which they should have gave you a discount once they pulled Spence out, honestly.
A little $10 discount.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Throw us a bone. You give us, I knew they weren't gonna, because why would they? But, I promise you, Spence, you're getting Ugas, but I'm going to charge you the same.
Yeah. Capitalism, baby. Crawford-Porter, purse bid. Who wins it, Gary?
Well, Top Rank doesn't want to win it, right? They're not winning it, from what I understand. Which I think that Top Rank called up the WBO and said, hey, can you call this? Because I don't want to pay Crawford again. And if it goes to purse bids, somebody else will buy this fight.
I think
because they just called a mandatory for Kavalauskas, and he's only fought once since then. So they're going to call another mandatory. Some I was like, yeah, the WBO got a call from Bob. I was like, hey, call this because I don't want to buy this fight. Somebody else will. So PBC wins the fight, right? Or unless Triller wins the fight. You're going to see a lot of fights go to purse bids because of what Triller did. Like, it's worth it to take the risk. Like, I might get $100 billion. I don't know. Let's go to purse bids.
Matchroom could get it too, man. We forget that they had the second highest bid for Lopez Cambosa. Yeah. If it wasn't for Triller, that fight would have been on Matchroom already.
And they Matchroom put in a good offer too. It was just that Triller went all in.
And let's be honest, with Matchroom's logistical ability, we would have had the fight already.
Yeah.
Right. Regardless of Tifimo getting COVID, we would have got the fight already, guaranteed. Shout out to Triller being a fucking new operation with boxing, so they're just gonna not do it properly. But then they're going to throw a lot of money at it, though. That's the benefit of it. I don't know what happens with Crawford-Porter. I think probably PBC wins it. Thompson's boxing is probably going to be the one that throws a bid in for Al Heyman. But there's still a part of me that thinks we can get a wild card in here. Like Triller, if they're serious about this, they're looking at this fight and going, another legit fight we can have. Like Lopez Cambosa is a legit fight for them when they have all the other circuits around it. Crawford-Porter is a legit fight. Boxing fans will pay for that shit too. Like that will do 300,000 pay-per-view buys, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it won't do the Crawford numbers of like 100, 150, 50,000. It'll do around 300,000.
It'll do 300,000, I would think. Yeah,
and I think Triller probably wants some of that cash. If I had to guess. And PBC and Fox, we know that they're okay with that number and hitting that number. So they would probably want it as well.
And Top Rank wants nothing to do with Terrence Crawford. So
I do think, though, regardless of who wins it, we're not going to get that super inflated bid like we got with Lopez Cambosa. That was I think even they know it was a mistake. Okay. And looking at Ryan Kavanaugh a little bit, a little bit of a loose cannon. I can see him just throwing out $6 million and all of his investors going, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's stop doing that now, please. I can definitely see that. Gary, any other thoughts? Any other boxing news before we head out of here?
No, I mean, we covered a lot, right?
Yeah. A lot of fights, 2 weekends of fights. Gary's going to be out of town this week. When are you back?
I'll be back Sunday.
Sunday, ooh.
Yeah, we've gone all week. We're going to South Padre Island. Let's go to the beach because the kids are all back in school. So then, like, the beach kind of quiets down. And it's the perfect week to go. And then I'm having my house painted, right? Because it's like I got 3 little kids, and they're 5, they're 7 and 5 now. That's twins are 7, and the little one's 5. So like I think they're done ruining the house. Like we can start to make it nice again.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you're wrong. Good warning. Oh God. Obviously, for those that care, September 11th, Red Boxing Promotions. I'm the general manager for that event, so buy your tickets online. They're basically sold out, so try to do it fast. Excited for that card. It's been a shit ton of work. Sorry we have not been able to do more shows, either on this channel or Trending Now Network. I apologize about that. Hopefully after September 11th, I can take like a week off, 2 weeks off, whatever, and do a lot of content for the channels. So you guys can be happy. Apologize. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Patreon.com/Trending Now Network if you want to support the channel in any financial way. I am Matthew Hunter. Follow me right there. Remember at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Gary, final thoughts.
Follow my new channel, Texas Boxing Scene.
Do it.
I got brand new interviews with, like I said, Josh Franco after his win, and his brother Bam Rodriguez. I also have an interview with Christy Martin. I'll upload. Talk to Christy Martin. The Texas thing. She lives in Austin now. So that's.
There's a documentary on her that came
really good. Yeah, so go watch my interview, and then from the interview, you'll know that there's a documentary on Netflix, and then go watch that too because it's really good. I forgot that that part where go watch it. Right?
I forgot that completely.
Yeah,
I forgot about that completely, and I forgot how much Layla Ali kicked her ass. That was.
Oh, I remember that because I remember in college, right? Because I was like, I think Christy Martin will win. Then they got in the ring, and Layla Ali's 6 inches taller than her. And I'm like, oh no, forget that, scratch that. Layla Ali's gonna win. But yeah, subscribe to the channel, Texas Boxing Scene. All proceeds go to autism research and recovery. Help us get that monetized and up and running as quickly as possible. It is August 22nd. 2021. Ivan Calderon still not in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Let's make that change. Let's get the Iron Boy in. Texas is still not a country. Let's make Texas a country again. From Texas to the world. Thank you and God bless.
We need like a board where like you just write like the numbers, like you do the 5 right across it, like how many days it's been. But without
that's what I mean. Little guy's not getting the Hall of Fame. Ivan Calderon's not in the Hall of Fame. It's ridiculous. That's what I'm saying. Calderon doesn't get it. He's Puerto Rican, but he fought a bunch of times in the Garden. Like he had a following, and he's not in. Like I feel like Alvarado's got not based on his colors, but just like based on that they don't put little guys in. He's gonna have a tough.
If they do our boy Roman Gonzalez dirty at the Hall of Fame,
he's got to get in.
We riot, right?
He's got to get in.
We burn that motherfucker to the ground if he does not get in. But anyways, have a good day, guys. Peace.